I think that it has to be with a little bit of rebelliousness. And let me explain. Let me give you the context. There was a very famous experiment, research actually done by NASA, where they hire a researcher because they wanted to understand creativity and to be able to hire the most creative people that help them to solve the most difficult problems. So what they start measuring creativity as creativity in their definition is the way to solve problems in novel ways. They started measuring that from kids all the way to adults, and what they found is that at 2 years old, 99% of the children are creative geniuses. When it goes to 12 years old, that goes to 30%. Then 15 years old is 12%. When we get to adults, only 2% are considered creative geniuses. It's not because your creativity at a neurological level decreased, but it's about society, by judging your ideas, giving you or training you to accept one information instead of using your critical thinking. So all those things are modeling the way you approach creativity, and you get to a point that you have what it takes to be a very creative person. Just is kind of sort of dormant. So that's why my conclusion is that someone that is more rebellious tend to hold on more firmly to their ideas and their
I like that.
conviction that their ideas that come from their mind have value, and those are the people that stay more creative.
That you've kind of described something that I find really interesting because I'm a very rebellious person. That's why I don't work in corporate anymore, Yvonne, and why I'm quite happy to be running my own business. Um, I wonder though, like, there's a dangerous aspect to that as well for a business as well. So somebody who's rebellious and creative, there's a lot of risk associated with that. So what's your approach to kind of managing that risk taking environment where you want people to be going out and being creative, but at the same time you need to shield them from making decisions that are, let's call it, too creative or too out there, right?
Mhm. That's a great question. That's a great question. I love it because that's another misconception is that creativity means good ideas. Not necessarily. Creativity means connections that are novel connections, new, didn't exist before, but it can be terrible. Someone very creative can come up with a terrible idea. So it's a matter of how you connect that idea to a strategy. But even that before the idea, when you have that foundation, we talk about the different areas of the brain: previous knowledge, experience, intuition. When that base is solid, when you have enough information, enough knowledge of the industry where you're trying or attempting to create, that gives you a really good foundation. The other thing is how you approach that moment of creativity is with, you need to approach it with the goal of finding a solution to a problem that you have. Random ideas, I have an idea, let's do this. Maybe cool, those are terrible ideas. But when you really know the knowledge, you know your area, you know your industry. If you're in marketing, you know your brand, and you are really, really clear on the problem that you have and the solution that you're trying to find. And then start the connection, start the creative process, retrieving information, retrieving data that you already have, stimulus that you're reading in that moment. If you feed your brain with all those foundations, then when the connection happen, it's going to be a good idea. And a good idea doesn't mean that it has to be cool. It means that it's going to solve a problem in a real way. See, for example, in advertising agencies, you have the strategic planning team, and then you have the creative team, and they work together. It's because they offer, the strategic planning team offer the creative team with that foundation. But sometimes, I mean, the same people that is within the creative team can have that foundation. It's just another layer of strategy. But when creativity and strategy are together, typically the ideas should be good. Bad ideas is those that are disconnected from a real purpose to find a solution.
For the longest time, I always branded myself as being not creative. I didn't see myself as a creative person. And it's only in the last 4 or 5 years that I've found that creativity, but not where I thought it would be. And I think this is a common challenge for a lot of people, is that I only ever hear the word creativity mentioned alongside art and drama and music and graphical design and all of the really obvious visual and auditory studies that you can take part in. But I actually found my creativity is in connecting technology together and connecting people together. And so I've come to kind of reframe that a little bit in my mind. But that was a really hard, long journey to go on, to give myself that freedom to say, yes, I am actually creative, just in a very different way to the traditional sense. Is that something you see a lot in other people as well?
Yeah, I love to ask you this, but what made you think it was a message somebody told you? What made you think at some point that you were not creative?
Because I don't enjoy a lot of the typical creative works. So again, I think just because I'd heard the word creativity around art, for example, I'm a terrible artist. Like, partly because I never practice it, right? So
Right.
then there's the other side of things is it because I don't enjoy it, I don't practice it, therefore I'm not very good at it. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But actually that creativity for me is much easier channeled into things like technology, because I can just see it without having to. I've done that practice because I enjoyed it when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So that is leading us to a very interesting path, because it's exactly what you said. There was the wrong definition of or the wrong perception of creativity